Good morning and welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV. It is a beautiful day today, and today promises to be an interesting one as well. We're live in the nation's capital, and we have a lot of information and enlightenment for you today on the show. I'm Darshan Husseina Usman. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, today on Daybreak is World Book Day, and the theme for this year is You Are Reader, and we'll be looking at how to revive the reading culture, among Nigerians, especially students, plus the controversy that trailed the rejection of gender equality bills at the National Assembly. And as usual, we're bringing you top headlines from major newspapers from around the country. But first of all, the news highlights. Niger State Commissioner for Local Government, Chieftaincy Affairs and Internal Security, Emmanuel Umar, says at least 200 terrorists have reportedly been killed by joint security operatives comprising the military, police, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, and local vigilantes in the state in the last 4 days. He said this during a briefing on security situation in the state. He said 4 bandits groups have been operating in the state, with many terrorists fleeing with bullet wounds, calling on the communities to continue to provide credible intelligence to enable authorities win the ongoing war. He said commanders of the groups were among those neutralized, attributing the success to the new strategies deployed by the state government with support for communities. Umar said 2 security operatives, who the commissioner did not name, paid the supreme price during the encounters. The terrorists were said to have been killed at Kundu Axis, a border community between Rafi and Mariga local government areas, and Bambalamba community, Kwantagora local government. Moving on, prices of crude oil on Wednesday hit $113 a barrel, the highest since June 2014, amid supply fear following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Brent crude futures rose by as much as $8 and touched as high as $113.02 a barrel, the highest since June 2014, before easing to $111.75. Meanwhile, U.S. West Texas intermediate crude futures were up $7.24 or 7% to $110.67 a barrel, after earlier hitting the highest since August 2013. The concerns about Russia's invasion of Ukraine have spurred fear among oil investors that global supplies could be affected. Russia is the world's second largest oil producer, mostly selling its crude to European refineries, and the largest supplier of natural gas to Europe, providing about 35% of the latest supply. On Tuesday, the International Energy Agency announced that its member countries have agreed to release 60 million barrels of oil from their emergency reserves to ease any supply shortfall caused by the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And moving on to the final news highlights, which is on the foreign scene. United Nations General Assembly has approved a non-binding resolution condemning Russia for the invasion of Ukraine and demanding an immediate withdrawal. The vote saw 141 countries in favor, 5 against, and 35 abstaining. UN head Antonio Guterres, in an interview after the vote, said the people in Ukraine and the world desperately need help. Meanwhile, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland has announced the launch of a task force to pursue corrupt Russian oligarchs and violators of sanctions imposed on Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. The Justice Department, in a statement announcing the launch of the task force, Kleptocapture, said it will use all of its authorities to seize the assets of individuals and entities who violate the sanctions. In another development, the European Union has imposed sanctions on 22 senior Belarusian military officers over what it described as Minsk's role in aiding Russia's invasion. 6 generals and 16 colonels were added to the EU blacklist because Belarus is participating in a Russian-provoked invasion against Ukraine by allowing military aggression from its territory. And with that, we wrap up news highlights. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll move on to the historical events that happened today, March 3rd. Stay tuned.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, welcome back. Just as we've seen on Today in History, today is World Wildlife Day, and it is celebrated every year this day. And this year's theme is Recovering Key Species for Ecosystem Restoration. And the celebration will actually seek to draw attention to the conservation status of some of the most critical endangered species of wild fauna and flora, and to drive discussions towards imagining and also implementing solutions to conserve with them. Today is also World Hearing Day, and the theme is to hear for life, listen with care. And this year it will focus, or WHO, that's the World Health Organization, will focus on the importance of safe listening as a means of maintaining good hearing across the life course. And like we said earlier, today is World Book Day as well, and we'll have a guest in the studio later, for discussion on World Book Day. In 1939, Mahatma Gandhi begins a fast in Mumbai to protest against autocratic rule in India. In 1963, Senegal adopts a new constitution. In 1971, Winnie Mandela was sentenced to 1 year in jail in South Africa, and in 1976, Mozambique closes border with Rhodesia. And these are some of the events that happened today in world history. We'll take a quick breather, and when we come back, it'll be time for the newspaper review. Do stay tuned.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the situation,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that. Where you find that a look at the situation,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that. But in a situation where you find that a look at the situation,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, welcome back. It's still daybreak on Trust TV, and it's time for the newspaper review. We already have our guest in the studio, and we'll introduce him later when we're done reeling out, the headlines on the front page of newspapers. And we'll start with a Daily Trust newspaper for today. And the lead here is petrol scarcity to linger as cargoes stranded. We also have writers that say filling stations sell above 200 naira per litre, and crude oil hits $112 per barrel. At the top there, you'd find a story that says APC North Central governors meet Al Makura over consensus. Details of that can actually be found on page 12. We also have fuel crisis hits airlines as passengers suffer delays and cancellations. Special parliamentary seats, Women Affairs Minister blasts National Assembly. And you can find details of that on page 13. If you come down to the bottom there, you find a story that says Ukraine invasion. Buhari approves 3.5 billion naira to evacuate 5,000 Nigerians. And right above is a pictorial of members of the Nigerian Coalition of Women Civil Society Groups during their protest against the rejection of pro-women bills by lawmakers at the National Assembly yesterday. On the footnote there, you have charged 6 OIC members support to end insecurity in West Africa. You also have a man beats father to death over witchcraft, and details of that story can be found on page 23. Again, families of detained Bureau de Change operators protest in Kano, and you can find details of that on page 26. Now, these are some of the stories we have on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. And then with that, we'll move on to more newspapers on our list. And let's take a look at Blueprint newspaper. Now, the lead here says 3 weeks after NNPC's assurance, fuel queues persist nationwide. We also have writers saying scarcity worsens, citizens suffering. Product now 250 naira to 500 naira per litre. Abuja, Lagos worst hit. Veteran journalists seek way out. Bear with us, it will soon be over, says NNPC. Senate urges Buhari to transmit amendment to PIA. And right at the top, you find troops smoke out 200 terrorists in Niger, which is quite a feat. And it says lose 2 as well. Neutralize bandits, commanders. recover rustled cows. Reps urge IGP, Army Chief to raid Anambra kidnappers' den. And you can continue that story on page 6. Now, below that story, just beside the pictorial, you see a picture of the president and a story that says Ukraine. Buhari okays $8.5 million for evacuation of trapped Nigerians. First batch returned today via Air Peace and Max Air. And below it, you'd find INEC solicits EU support on electoral process and governors. Nigeria loses 379 billion naira to gas flaring in 12 months. On page 14, you'd find mother, 3 kids die in Ebonyi mystery fire. You also have oil spikes to $112 as Russian crude becomes toxic, may reach $150 per barrel. You also have court jails too for forging Kaduna electric receipts in Kebbi State. Details of that story on page 22. But that we'll move on to the Nation newspaper. And on the Nation newspaper, the lead here says government kicks off process for Kyari's extradition to the U.S. Malami asks court to okay request, and COP challenges 14 days detention order. You also have, just below it, the 3 counts in America. That's the 3 counts in America that he's going to face. And then suffering over petrol scarcity lingers. Queues at filling stations cause traffic gridlock in cities. Panic buying, hoarding to blame. NNPC says loading has started. And at the top there, you have a zoning crisis festers in the APC, a new committee to submit report on Monday. You also have Russian invasion of Ukraine. 115 Nigerians register in Abuja to join Ukraine troops. We also have Buhari okays $8.5 million to evacuate stranded 2,090. We have lost 2,000 civilians, and UN says 836,000 now refugees. And we also have a story that says OAU students' death. Hotelier, 6 others arrive in Osun to face trial. Okay, with that, we'll move on to more newspapers, and we have The Punch there. On The Punch, Nigeria, 140 others vote against Russia-Ukraine to get $5.2 billion lifeline. We also have embassy sends Nigerian volunteer fighters list to Ukraine. Buhari approves $8.5 million for evacuation. FG waives pre-departure tests. And then at the top there, you find OPEC raises Nigeria's oil production quota as Brent hits $111 per barrel. Insecurity may scare voters in 2023, Khan warns. And then on education, if ASU stops fighting, public varsities will die like primary schools, says Osodeke union president. Below there, Nigerians suffering under reckless misrule of elites, says Jega on page 18. Ogun contractor kills girlfriend, writes wife, commits suicide. And Senate may pass revised budget next week. Okay, these are some of the stories on the front page of a Punch newspaper, and we'll move on to This Day newspaper next. The lead here is about the convention, and it says APC set to roll, appoints Abdul Razak zoning committee chairman. We also have writers that say Lawan Omo Agege, some APC senators endorse Adamu for national chairman. Party leadership yet to meet on electoral act, says Akpondodo Ehe. We also have Sheriff. Sheriff says, I'm not aware Buhari is endorsing Adamu. And right below it, we have women protest over constitution review, alleged discrimination, and oil's price surges above $113 as OPEC keeps supply unchanged, and Nigeria gets 1.735 million barrels per day allocation for April, and petrol scarcity persists. Yes, with that, we'll move on to the final paper, which is a Business Day. On Business Day, Seplat Exxon Mobil deal puts new oil law to test. And We have a few riders here that says how Seplat raised money to buy ExxonMobil assets, and 6 reasons why Seplat ExxonMobil deal is good for Nigeria. We also have petrol marketers lament supply shortage as queues worsen. Ukraine-Russia crisis, 2,019 Nigerians expected as evacuation begins today. And at 88, there is still a lot God wants me to accomplish, says FCMB founder. And these are the stories that we can take on front page of newspapers from around the nation. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we'll introduce the guest. Do stay. All right, welcome back. In case you just tuned in, you're still watching a newspaper review right here on Daybreak on Trust TV. And my colleague, my co-anchor, has actually joined us today in the studio. Welcome, Z.
Good morning, Zaina.
I'm sure it has to do with fuel scarcity.
Yeah, it's really terrible, you know, but I had to just drag myself down here.
All right, it's nice of you to actually join us.
Yeah.
All right, so in the studio today, we have Editor-in-Chief Dateline Nigeria, Nasiru Lawal, and he joins us for the newspaper review. Good morning and welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
All right, so let's start with the lead story on Daily Trust, and it happens to be the lead story on, you know, almost every newspaper in Nigeria today, which has to do with petrol scarcity, you know, lingering, and, you know, as cargoes are actually stranded, it actually means, you know, more of the scarcity, it means more of the frustration for Nigerians. Share your thoughts on this.
It's quite unfortunate that we are still talking about fuel scarcity after all this long period of time. What I can see, or as far as the eyes can see, rather, when you are moving around the city, you tend to see all this, what do you call them, selling fuel in jerry cans. Where are they getting the fuel from? So if actually there is scarcity, I expect them not to have the fuel also. But the problem we tend to have, aside from the cargoes being stranded, is the fact that we have not been able to enforce the law. People are getting these resources from this product from only God knows where, and nobody is doing anything about it. So many people have now resigned to fate. They even have their own black market dealers that anytime they want fuel, they are the people that they call. So it's actually a problem that we have not been able to enforce the law.
You know, the NNPC is also saying that Nigerians should bear with them and that it will soon be over. Are we not tired of all the assurances?
Actually, Nigerians, that's not what Nigerians are after. Apologies, no. What we want is to be able to go to the filling stations, be able to buy fuel. That's all we want. Actually, the apologies, I don't think they are necessary. What Nigerians want is for you to provide this product so that whenever we want, we will be able to get them.
Okay, now with that, because honestly, you know, just talking about the fuel scarcity enough, you know, it's actually quite draining, yes. But then let's move on to something else. Let's talk about the Russian-Ukraine invasion. And on Punch newspaper, the lead story there talks about 140, you know, countries vote against Russia, and Ukraine is actually to get $5.2 billion lifeline.
I'm surprised that Nigeria is actually one of the countries that is condemning the Russian invasion. I'm not saying Nigeria has no right to do that, but looking at our foreign affairs policy, we've always been non-aligned, you know, we've always played this neutral role, but this time that we are coming in to say Russia is wrong and that they should withdraw, probably we are going into the problem, which I don't think it's good for the country.
Okay, now the embassy is actually sending, you know, Nigerian volunteers, you know, fighter lists to the Ukraine, and you have a lot of people saying, you know, there's insecurity in the country. Why didn't this set of people, you know, volunteer to fight insurgents, and you know, instead of going to Europe?
Well, I've heard so many people saying that actually what they want is to be able to get out of Nigeria and then find what they will be able to do afterwards. Because just like people are saying, we have our own challenges. Why don't you stay here to help us out? But as you can see, even the Ukrainian embassy is waiving off visa fee. You don't need a visa to go there because this time they want you. Anytime you go to the Ukrainian embassy and you see the number of people that are actually looking for visas and they've not been able to get them, but here they are being offered free of charge if they can help Ukraine to fight Russia. But the sincerity is what we should be looking at. People really sincere that they want to help Ukraine?
Are they taking advantage of the...
Or are they only taking advantage of it so that they get out of the country and then decide what they do afterwards?
Okay. All right. Now, what about the president approving $8.5 million for evacuation of Nigerians, you know, in the Ukraine?
Well, from what I have read so far, it's not just about the evacuation.
Okay.
It's also about helping the embassies to arrange feeding and other logistics. But you can see Nigeria is also trying to play the role of the big brother in Africa. They are also even offering to help other stranded Africans that are there that have left Ukraine, Ghana, Cameroon, and a number of other African countries. So maybe what they should consider first is to be able to finish with our own citizens before they do that, because in as much as it is good for Nigeria to also help its neighbors and other core African countries, they should start with the nationals, because that's their first responsibility.
Okay. All right. Now, let's move on to more stories and talking about Abba right now. On the Nation newspaper, it says government kicks off process for Kerry's, extradition to the U.S. So finally, even while this is actually happening, Kerry is still, challenging, his detention and, trying to fight for himself before he gets extradited. What's your thought on this?
When the issue broke out, so many people were saying maybe some people within the government actually introduced these new charges against Abba Kyari so that they will be able to stop his extradition to the United States of America. But now that this is coming out, probably that may not be the case. But if you look at the Extradition Act, there are so many things that you will have to finish here in Nigeria before you will be available outside, especially when the problem you have tend to look like the same. Because this has to do with drugs and international crime, and the same thing he's been sought after in the United States of America. It's also about an international crime, working with international syndicate. Yes.
All right. So now, do you think if he's actually left in Nigeria, that the process of charging him might be swept under the carpet?
Well, I don't think we'll be able to do that because it's either we go ahead with the NDLEA case or we find a way of transferring him to extraditing him to the United States of America. We have to do one of the two. We can't do neither and then expect the world to just allow Nigeria to.
Because even before now, we already have, the police saying that, instead of dismissing him, let him be, demoted instead, and a whole lot of,
Well, it's because so many people are actually accusing the police of being complicit. Probably they think if Abba Kyari is allowed to face this thing alone, he may end up implicating so many people, and you never know the people that he may implicate, and that may not be good for the police force.
But where do you see this case, going? Where do you see it headed?
Well, I expect the NDLEA to be able to do to follow their own case to a logical conclusion, and if they are not able to do that, then probably we may not have any option than to extradite him to the United States of America, because actually the problem with that, once he's in the United States of America, there will be no hindrance. They will be able to do all the due diligence there, because if you look at what they were able to do even before indicting him, how they were able to establish the fact that he had met with so people in Dubai. This transfer took place between Abba Kyari and some people of interest to the United States of America. Honestly, I see the NDLEA going ahead to do this to a logical conclusion.
Okay, and now with that, we'll move on to, the gender bills. I'm sure you've actually been expecting me to talk about that. Now, the National Assembly has actually said there's no going back, and women are definitely angry, and they've actually alleged discrimination. A lot of women, in leadership have actually come out, against, the defeat of this particular bill.
Well, why are we talking about gender bill at this point in time?
Exactly.
Because you see, we are in a democracy, which is a game of numbers. I actually have a problem with the way the proponents of the gender bill are going about it, because if you are expecting Nigeria to be able to have some special seats for women lawmakers, I don't think it will be good to say this is for women alone, because you are talking about gender equality. What I expect is for women to be given fair chance,
So they compete with the men.
So they compete. Actually, if they are using their numbers, honestly, they will be able to do so many things, even without this gender bill. But the problem is women have not been able to mobilize them. To carry their weight and all that. That's why we are still talking about gender bill, because how do you even go about it? If you are to say Kaduna State should produce maybe a female senator, from which zone is she going to come from? Is it from the central, is it from the southern part, or is it from the northern part? You see, these are things that will need to be ironed out. Probably what we should be talking about is whoever becomes a leader, whether it's male or female, should be able to carry women along. There are so many positions that women can be given so that they become part of governance, because they also have a role to play. But to say that they should be given this special concession, honestly, I don't think it's even good for the women, because people will be saying, it's just...
It was a reserved kind of...
Yeah, they're just giving you because maybe you don't even merit it. But there are so many women who have proved themselves to be capable of, even leading the country. So why are we talking about special concession here and there?
Okay, so do you think women in leadership or women in position actually, makes a lot of difference?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. If the men are given the chance, why not the women? Because there are some people who are arguing the fact that some women have been tried and they failed, that they shouldn't be tried again.
What about
so many men have failed, but we keep giving them the chance.
Yes,
so honestly, I don't think that argument is even a sound one.
A lot of people thought, the visit by the wife of the president was actually, going to make this easier. People thought women had a chance, and then boom, we saw this. It was really...
Well, actually, she should have started that long ago. But to come at the end of it, when they have finished, when they were about to release the result of their... Honestly, I don't think that will have changed anything. So maybe she needed to have gone there, right from the beginning, so that she may be able to convince them, probably.
Okay, so in years to come, do you see women, given more slots, given more seats in time? Because it seems like the men are trying to muscle the women out
This is what I'm talking about. We shouldn't be talking about women being given slots. No, women should fight for these slots, and they have the numbers. If women
like
can
49%,
mobilize, yes, if women can mobilize, believe me, they will be able to do so many things with their numbers. But the problem is even when it comes to even obtaining the form, women want to be given the form free of charge. They want to be given so many. It's not good for them. They should be able to come out, because this is something that they merit. This is something that they can actually do. But they have not been taking, they've not been using their numbers. That's
So you talked about, giving the forms, but, these forms can be very, very expensive. And, how many women actually have the finances to, get these forms?
They should be able to mobilize. That's what I'm talking about. If the men can afford it, honestly, the women can also afford it. We have so many women billionaires. This is something that, has to do with women. So women should be able to mobilize themselves, even if it means sponsoring themselves.
Okay. I think we'll take a quick break right now. When we come back, we'll continue this. Stay tuned.
Principle of the 2022 budget, I raised the issue of the tax expenditure, Mr. President. Tax expenditure are waivers that are given to individuals or companies. Mr. President, if we look at the tax expenditure in 2022, is about 1 trillion. And it is totally unnecessary. So it is not just what the president has sent here. Let us consider those areas that can help them save money, because we might decide to step down on those tax expenditure. For instance, the individuals that are giving tax expenditure of about 600 billion. Let us know, arrest it. Let us know those people. And then how we can save monies from this tax expenditure to defray even the deficit and attend to some of the issues that the president has raised. So let the appropriation committee, in considering it, look at those tax expenditure. It's very important, Mr. President.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, let's take a look at some more stories. There's this one on the Blueprint newspaper that states troops smoke out 200 terrorists in Niger, and then they lost 2. Could you comment on that?
Well, that's quite a good one because, Niger State has been on the receiving end for quite some time. When the issue went a bit down in parts of Kaduna and Zamfara State, it's like they just moved to Niger State and doing all the killings, cattle rustling and so many things. But now that we are hearing about the troops being able to kill 200 terrorists, I think it's something that calls for celebration. But, one thing I would expect the government to also do is to be able to show some evidence to the people. Anytime you say you have killed a number of people, people want to see, okay, where are the casualties? Where are the, because just for you to come out with these figures, honestly, I don't think some people will be convinced.
Oh, okay. Now, talking about, troops killing terrorists, in the past, we've actually seen situations where, after, they've successfully, neutralized these terrorists, some of them who are actually still alive go back to these communities and, unleash mayhem on these communities as, revenge. So what are these troops actually doing to protect, communities around?
Yeah, that's actually another problem, We have not been able to sustain the momentum all the time. Now that we have succeeded in killing so many of them, honestly, we should be able to follow up with more operations, or what do they even call them? So, because if we don't do that, like you said, they come back to the same communities and then unleash all sorts of mayhem. And the people are actually afraid sometimes of helping the security agents, because anytime they do that, when these people come back, they are left to their own devices, and it's actually not good for the system.
One other problem, we are facing is the fact that sometimes when a particular area is under attack, we mobilize, and then there's so much energy, to maim that area. And then suddenly, when we think everything is over, we withdraw, and leaving that community susceptible to more attacks. What do you think, what strategy should we use this time?
Well, in the military, I think they call it garrison, When you are able to take over a town, you don't just leave it, you remain there to ensure that things are back to normal. But from what we have been seeing, honestly, that has not been, it's not been done for obvious reasons, because probably we don't have the numbers that we need to maybe leave behind. We are always on the move because of shortage of manpower and all that. But is that how we should be going about it? No. There are so many people that are actually volunteering, to be able to secure their own communities. So with little help, we should be able to secure these areas even after reclaiming them.
Okay, so this actually still, goes back to the question, should these people arm themselves to protect themselves against, these bandits and these terrorists?
Well, the problem is even if they want to arm themselves, how do they go about that? Somehow the criminals have mastered the art of, getting weapons from wherever they want to get them. But the people have not been that lucky. But believe me, if the people can actually also obtain these weapons, they will start getting them, because in so many instances, they have had to defend themselves. So why will you want to remain at home just for somebody to come and kill you, and then you are helpless, you can do nothing about it? So if actually they will be able to get these weapons, believe me, they will have started acquiring them by now. But one of the problems that we have, we tend to refer all these people as either a commander, either a kingpin. How many kingpins do they have? How many commanders do they have that you will kill 200 today, you kill another 100 tomorrow, and then they seem not to be ending? So people will be asking questions.
All right, now one would actually think that, with the, APC convention date set for, next month, that all the internal wranglings would have subsided, to, a degree. But we're seeing here that, there's still zoning crisis festering in the APC.
Yeah, I think they have even assigned the governor of Kwara State that responsibility to be able to decide that. And you can see from some of the things that some of the stakeholders are saying, probably they are not happy with what is out so far, because some are saying the chairmanship of the party has been zoned to the North Central, and even at that, the president has come out to endorse Senator Abdullahi Adamu, when so many people in even Nasarawa State are still asking that they are supporting Al-Makura instead. So, politicians, they will continue pushing, they will continue trying their luck. Probably something may come out of it before we reach the convention date.
Okay, hopefully.
Now let's take a look at some more stories, like the one on the Punch, talking about ASU. Now, Osede, the union president, is saying that if ASU stops fighting, public varsities will die like primary schools. Are you of that opinion as well?
Well, I don't know why he said that, but probably he was trying to show the actually magnitude of the problem, because why should we still be talking about introducing, establishing new universities when we have not been able to take care of the ones that we have? Probably that's what he's trying to point out. And you can see what has become of primary schools. It's the responsibility of the local governments to run them, but the local governments have become powerless. They are left with only payment of salaries, and even the salaries, some are not able to do that. They have to go to the state government all the time. The governor is the one in control. So because of that, they are no longer being able to take care of primary schools. And that's what he is trying to say. Because most of these officials that you see, it's either their own words are studying outside or studying at private institutions, even within the country. So they may not care what happens or what becomes of the public institutions. And that's probably one of the things that he's trying to draw attention to.
Okay, do you think the number of these institutions are too many for Nigeria to actually handle? Should they be, probably reduced, or, is there some form of regulation?
Yeah, honestly, we should stop talking about quantities and, focus on the qualities of what we are churning out from all these institutions. There are so many universities that are only there because just to meet the numbers, to say that, okay, so state have their own state-owned universities, or the federal government also has an institution in so number of states. Honestly, that's not what we need. When we used to have not more than 3 or 4 universities in Nigeria, so many people were trained, you know, and the products that they were churning out at the time, you know, people were coming from outside to come and study in Nigeria. Is that the case now? No. Even with the numbers, there are so many schools that are even begging for students because people are not going there. People are not meeting all the quota and all that because the schools are just too many. And if there are too many, honestly, funding them and taking care of them will be difficult.
And then the strikes, you know, aren't making things easy at all because, you know, you end up going in for a 4-year course and coming out after 8 to 10 years due to ASU strikes. So.
You can see.
And the students also protested. You know, we actually have, you know, the ASU members saying that they're fighting for the students and the students are standing solidly behind them. But we actually still saw them protesting.
Well, it's because, just like they say, when two elephants fight, you know, it's the grass that
suffers.
So the students are now in the middle, you know. They don't even know who to trust again. Because if actually the university lecturers are doing it for the students should be able to know. They should be able to tell us. If the government is also taking care of their interests, they should be able to tell us. But now that they are coming to say, to protest, it shows that even at that, they are not comfortable with what both parties are actually doing.
Okay. Now let's go back to, you know, insecurity. We also have on Daily Trust on page 3, Chad seeking OIC members' support to end insecurity in West Africa.
Well, I'm surprised that it is Chad that is talking about insecurity in West Africa because Chad is actually not part of West Africa. Chad is part of the Central Africa region, or what do you call them? They are not part of West Africa. So why are they interested? Is it that what is happening in West Africa is beginning to affect them? Probably that's what they are.
Yes, they're suffering insecurity as well.
What they are trying to say. But being our neighbors, also, whatever affects Nigeria will definitely affect Chad, either in form of refugees, you know, displaced persons, or even flow of arms. Because there was a time that Nigeria was actually accusing Chad of allowing its borders to be used for all these gun runners and what have you. But it's a good development that they are bringing attention to the problem in West Africa.
Okay. Now, we're also seeing that federal government, you know, has ordered domestic airlines, you know, to cut down airfares to about 60%. Some would say maybe it's because of maybe Qatar Airways coming in and then having more lifts from Kano and then to also Port Harcourt.
Well, I don't think it's good for the government to tell the airlines what to do. Of course, I know the government has a regulatory function to play, but to come out and say this is something that you shouldn't go beyond, honestly, I don't think it's good for the system. The airlines will be able to determine what they think, you know, how they can make profit, because they are not charity organizations. They are in it because they want to make money. But in doing that, they should also show some sense of responsibility so that the people will be able to afford their services. But the government shouldn't be the one saying, don't go beyond this or don't go below that, because there is supposed to be competition. So whoever is charging exorbitant fees should know that unless if he's doing something extraordinary, people may want to use alternative means.
Okay. All right. I think we're almost, there's this particular human angle story, you know, and it's on Daily Trust as well. And it has to do with, you know, a man beating his father to death over witchcraft. We've seen a lot of stories about, you know, people accusing their parents or, you know, other people of witchcraft.
It's unfortunate that we are still talking about witchcraft in this era of science and technology, because what will I even say? What the man is complaining that his father is responsible for his wife not conceiving. Something that you can actually do with just a visit to the hospital. The doctors can run some tests, and they will be able to tell you, no, the problem is from you, the problem is from your wife, and then you don't have to take innocent lives just like that. Now he has deprived himself of a father, and probably he's not even the only person. There are others. He has maybe younger brothers or so, and then what do they do now? Because the problem is his problem, not their problem, and why should he do that when there is, with just a visit, like I said, to the hospital, he will be able to know what is responsible for your wife not conceiving.
And then he would also be charged, for murder, and in essence, probably lose his wife, because if he goes away for a long time...
Actually, that's what the court is already saying. He's facing life imprisonment.
See?
And if you are doing that, which is, I think, a minimum of 21 years, probably he's around 40 or so. In the next 20 years, where will he be?
All right, now we actually saw, families of detained brood exchange operators protesting in Kano again.
Yeah, it's because there is no information out there. Ever since the BDC operators were arrested, so many people expected, the government to have kept the tab, keep informing the people of developments. Okay, this is where we are. We are still doing investigation. After investigation, we'll take them to the court. Things like that. But in the absence of all this, the families will have no other option than to come out the way they did, to say what's happening to our family members, because they are being kept. They are not being prosecuted as far as we can see. So the government should be able to come out to tell these people where the case is at the moment.
Okay. All right. Now, this story on page 20 of the Punch newspaper says that Senate may pass revised budget next week.
Yeah, it's because when the president actually approved the budget bill, he was particular about some of the things that were inserted into the budget, and he actually told the leadership of the National Assembly that he will be coming back for some changes, and that's where we are, because so many things have been added to the budget without even talking about how they will be funded. And when we are borrowing a huge amount of money to be able to even run the budget, I don't think it's good to introduce other things that can actually wait.
All right, so just before we wrap up, there's a story still on page 18 on the Punch, where Jega said Nigerians are suffering under reckless misrule of elites.
Well, so many people will say that, but it's easier said than done. Sometimes the people will want to know what exactly do you expect the elite to do, and is it possible for the elite to actually fail in their responsibility without the complicity of, without the people being complicit? Why are we championing their cause? If you go to social media and see the kind of things that we do, fighting over these elites, when in actual sense they don't even think about our welfare. They are always thinking of what they will get out of the system. But here we are, instead of putting them under pressure to be able to do what is right. No, we are fighting over who is right, who is wrong, who should be the president, who should not be the president, over something that we don't even have any idea how they are being done.
Okay. All right. So I think with that, we will be wrapping up the paper review today. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio. Editor-in-Chief, Dateline Nigeria, Nasiru Lowell. Thank you so much. Hope to have you again.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. We'll take a quick breather. And when we come back, it'll be time for our first discussion. It's still Daybreak on Trust TV.
This is Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Permit me to lead the debate on this very important bill, which seeks to amend the 2022 Appropriation Act in the sum of 161,499,052 naira for capital expenditure and 43,870,532,044 naira and 44 naira for recurrent expenditures without increasing the budget deficit. Highlight of the request for amendments made by the executive arm of government include the following. Number one, funding to cushion the impact of the recent suspension of the petroleum motor spirit subsidy. Number two, addressing the adverse implications and some changes made in the 2022 Appropriation Act that could have impact for the successful implementation of the budget.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust TV. Now let's kickstart our first discussion on the program. Today is World Book Day, an annual charity event that began in 1995 and is celebrated in the UK and Ireland on the first Thursday in March. Now, on World Book Day, every child in full-time education is given a voucher to spend on whatever book they want, with the hopes of encouraging kids to read more. Now, with a continued commitment to promote reading for pleasure and offer every child a book of their own, the charity has a particular focus on reaching children from disadvantaged backgrounds, and its theme for this year is You Are a Reader. We have with us in the studio the former president, Association of Nigerian Authors, Denja Abdullahi, to help look at the dying culture of reading in Nigeria. And he'll join us on the program with the editor, Teen Trust, Taiwo Adeni. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
We're glad to have you on the program.
Thank you so much.
So now, could you talk to us, about the reading culture in Nigeria? Would you say it's on a decline, or people are getting to read more?
Well, I will not say the reading culture is on a decline, because the world has so much advanced, and reading is being done on several platforms. I believe that we're actually reading more than we do before, because of so many limitless possibilities in terms of the cyberspace that gives you a window to several formats of reading. And in terms of even the increasing population of people, and in terms of increasing number of writers and texts that are all over the place. What I would say is not really happening is our attention span has greatly dwindled because of the same technological intrusion, the obstruction of technology. Now it is very difficult for somebody to just pick a book and spend maybe interrupted 30 minutes of reading because of so many things to contend with. The problem of existence, going to look for a living, the issue of you having to look at your so many social media handle and the rest of them. Now, what is lacking is dedicated general interest reading has declined greatly, in the sense that people don't just read for the sake of empowering themselves. In days gone by, people go out of their way, whatever is their profession, whatever is their level, people go out of their way to read books, to buy books, read them, and to generally improve yourself as a person, to know about the world, to improve your vocabulary, without the issue of you reading for examination. But nowadays, the span of attention is no longer there, so people concentrate on reading for passing examination, or when somebody forces them to read. Now, you also talk about what are people reading. People are not reading worthwhile materials. Reading is happening so widely, but the materials people are reading are not even the thing they should be reading, in the sense that people read motivational texts, they read all sorts of concussion, all sorts of fake news, all sorts of things that are on the social media. Those are the things people are reading. They are not reading things that are ennobling. So if we say the reading culture has declined, we are saying the kind of reading that should be done to improve oneself and to improve the society is not being done.
Okay. Now let's get other perspectives. Let's hear from Taiwo. He's the editor, Teen Trust, our very own, editorial that deals with children and young adults. So Taiwo, could you tell us what role, does Teen Trust have to play in encouraging reading culture for children and young adults?
Thank you for the question. I must agree with Mr. Abdullahi, not that children do not read, but they are faced with several things that seeks their attention. So, like technology innovation has also advanced reading. I mean, what people write and how they package these books into electronic format. So we have children now having smartphones and other gadgets, but then what do they read on this smartphone? So at Teen Trust, what we're trying to do differently is we're trying to bring them to that way of reading, devoid of all these distractions in form of technology, in form of, social media per se. So what we are doing at Teen Trust is just to promote that reading culture in children, understanding the fact that these children have to start reading at a very young age, so that by the time they grow older, reading will be part of them. Not reading to pass examination, as he has rightly said, but reading for fun, reading because you are just interested in reading, picking a book and reading. So unlike the World Book Day celebrated in the UK, where children are made to, we're given a book, what we are doing in Teen Trust is we are giving them newspapers. We are ensuring that students have access to newspapers. Students have newspapers in their libraries. So if you don't have it as your own, you can easily go to your library, pick a copy, and read. And what do we package in this newspaper? Teen Trust is like a newspaper by these children, for them, and purposely for them. If you agree with me, I can't say I'm an old person, but back in the 80s, in the 90s, newspapers are a standard for reading. People can pick up newspaper and work with the sentence construction, with the grammar from that newspaper. So like these days now, newspapers are not packaged the way they are packaged now. Children are not interested in it per se. So we're trying to bring the newspaper to their own level, give them what they are interested in, let them write. And as they are writing, they'll be interested in what they've written. Pick up a copy, read it, and become better. Thank you.
Okay, now let's come back to Danger. Now, it's a good thing you said a lot of people actually read, but, it's the kind of material they read, that matters. But even aside that, I've actually heard that most people, when they read, they find it difficult to actually comprehend or even understand what it is they read. And some have actually said it's because, there's a difference between reading on hard copy and also reading on soft copy. You comprehend better when you read on hard copy.
Well, it is true in the sense that hard copy allows you to read over, go back to a sentence you've read. Maybe you're interested in construction, you look at it again and enjoy it. That is what the hard copy affords you. You are seeing it and you are looking at it and you are revising it. And you're looking at a whole lot of things. It's an experience that you cannot replicate when you have something on tablet. And let me tell you, people will tell you to read ebooks, even as I'm talking to you now. I have a lot of ebooks that I've downloaded into my system that I've never gone back to. That's to tell you this ebook thing is just a fad. People don't really have the time to go back to this book. A book, once you grab it, because that pathway of technology that gives you access to the ebooks and the rest of them, there's a lot of things that pops up. You open it, you look at your mail, something comes to your attention, pops up, you go there, you are distracted. There is a lot of distraction, except it is guided and designed. Maybe you have an instructor on your neck telling you what have you read today, well, have you read a sentence, a paragraph, and test you on what you read. So the people, it is better to read the hard copy for greater understanding. But at that, even a lot of material is out there on the internet superhighway, and that helps you a lot to read. What that gives you is to get access to rare books. There are tests that you can hardly ever see except to go to that place. So the access to rare books, access to research materials. Well, we give a thumbs up for online reading. But the physical reading is still very much cherished. And the idea that the book will go out of fashion because the hard copy of a book, because we have the ebooks, is just, we know now that it is not very true. They will coexist because each has a pattern, each has its advantages, and when you want to concentrate, you pick a book and go somewhere and read and get immersed in that book. When you also to do read a lot of stuff in a kind of way that is multifaceted, you go to the internet superhighway where you can read a lot of stuff at the same time. So they each have their advantages. It is just that our students, particularly if we want to revive reading, we have to go back to that. They have to be guided. They have to be instructed. There has to be a pattern to the way you read online so that you get the benefit of the huge materials that are on the cyberspace.
Adeni, let me direct this at you. I know that children like colors. They like great color separations, and they like something very fun to look at. Could you talk to us, about your readership statistics? What is it that is distinct that actually makes children want to read, the Teen Trust?
Thank you. And let me take you back again to among the reasons or among the focus of this World Book Day is among what people celebrate, or the UK government celebrates today, is they celebrate people that generate content for children as well. We look at people that are into illustrations, and they try to recognize them as well. So in Teen Trust, we package all these things, and then we try to present a newspaper that will be appealing to these children, that will be attractive to them, that on seeing this newspaper, you will want to pick a copy willingly, not by compulsion, not with strokes of the cane, but to create that desire to drive readership among the students. And I can gladly say that since Teen Trust started in 2016, we print over 50,000 copies weekly. And it's just a not that big, not bulky newspaper. So if you pick a copy of the paper, you can have access to what we believe children are interested in. And this is what we try to give to them so that we can drive that reading culture in them. We can motivate them to read. So our focus is from Teen Trust. We believe they can be picking Daily Trust and other books because we must have still that need, that drive to read in them.
Interesting.
All right, now coming back to danger. Now, do you think parents are a part of the problem? Do you think parents do not do enough to promote the act of reading, in their children? Because, when they come back from school, in most cases, or they're forced to just do homework and then watch a little bit of cartoons, and and then they sleep. Yes. So the parents don't actually push for them to, inculcate that habit of reading. Do you think they're actually part of the problem?
Yeah, well, parents are not really part of the problem. Let me put it that way, because it is a battle in every home to get children to be reading. It's a big battle. Even in my own house, when there is a whole lot of library there with thousands of books on the shelves, and you pick a cane and run after your children to go get these books. It was not like that when we were growing up. In fact, talking about Teen Trust now, I remember those way back. You don't have spaces or column dedicated to children. You don't have them. But we read, because the parents set a good example. For example, now, my dad then will go to you take 1 naira or so, you buy 10 papers or 5, and you bring it home. And we are so eager for him to drop the paper so that we'll take it and read. And in the process, we get inculcated with materials that we develop our vocabulary, we sparkle our interest in reading. Today, it is a battle in most homes for children to read because there's a lot of distractions. And the parents that even buy books for children, you try to force them to read those books because the children have very interesting things they see. For example, the DSTV and all
lots of distractions.
So, yes, start times and all sort of things are distracting the children. So, and they are not. That is why, to rescue us from this problem in every home, the parents that don't have time, because I told you the problem of existence in the sense that they have to go to look for daily living. You don't have light. You have so many problems in society now that takes away your attention you pay to children. In spite of all that problem that is on ground, we have to go back to the schools. Although parents have some things to do in terms of providing reading material at home, setting a good example, making sure you say this is the reading time for 1 hour at home, you do all that. But we have to get back to the school to also, where the students spend more time, to design ways in which they can be made to read. Because in the school today, beyond just reading for the exams and the thing they do at classes, the general interest reading time, making sure children develop active love on books, books. It's no longer there. Libraries are not there. If you go to most schools, you don't even find libraries. They don't even teach reading. I remember they teach us reading, how to read.
Even state libraries.
Exactly. So all those things are lacking. So we have to go back to the school system to put a lot of things right. Then we will now come back to the home. The home is the first point of socialization for the child, and therefore at home the children must be interested, must be made to love books. But I'm telling you, in each home, for example, you have homes that are what do you call it, people that are low income, who don't even have a space for book. You can see the problem they will face there. Not to talk of even homes where there is middle income and high level income, where you see books all around. The children still don't cultivate this habit of reading. So there's a whole lot of problems we have on our hands.
All right. Now, some have actually said that, many of the potential markets are actually too small to publish enough books for, the Nigerian population, and that's why the reading culture is dying. How true is that?
No, I think that is not true, because I know a lot of books. People, in spite of all the problems we have in society, books are being written every day by the young, the old, and the very old, and the young, the old, and every other set, male and female. A lot of reading materials are out there, physically and electronically. So it's not really it is for us to make use of those reading materials. Imagine in a country of about 200 million people, you can hardly sell 1,000 copies of books. And children in school, look at the school population. School alone can take up a lot of reading materials, but why are they not being taken up? Because people don't bother. They don't care. Beyond textbooks that are prescribed for educational purposes, where this culture can be pepped up is general interest reading. And people are missing something. If you have a child that likes to read generally, believe you me, any other thing the child will handle in terms of text for exams will be easily tackled, because you already have a broadened mind. A child that reads, whatever that child does, it must always be exceptional. He or she must be exceptional. So when we don't go back to just purely cultivating the interest in reading in children for the purpose of self-awareness and self-development, we will not get it. Even when we don't want those children to be very highly educationally attuned, they will not, because they don't. If you don't read widely, how do you tackle the multiple problems of life?
Right. Now let's quickly get Adeni on this one before we wrap up this segment. Adeni, I remember just a few days ago, some children, or rather students, visited Media Trust back in Kano for an excursion, and a lot of them talked about how interested they are in becoming journalists in the future. It seems like Teen Trust has a way of encouraging children to actually choose a career path. Is that so?
Yeah, I must agree, because, if you should pick a copy of Teen Trust, we have a page dedicated to career. So we just try to guide them on what subject or what they can do with the subject they're interested in. Personally, I never had that opportunity to choose the course I studied in school. I was just sitting down at home, and then my brother brought the jam for and said, "Feel something for me," and then I found myself in school. But we're trying to change that mentality. If you know you are good in English language, we can direct you or guide you on what you can do with that area of your strength. And then because we're in media house, we try to bring them to our office to see how this newspaper is being produced. Because if you know how a book is being published, if you know the efforts people put into the newspaper you read, there is that sense of ownership, that belongingness, that feeling, that responsibility you feel towards that newspaper, towards what you want to do. So in Teen Trust, what we're trying to do is to guide them. Of course, we love them to be journalists if they desire to be journalists, but then we try to shine light on other career as well.
Very interesting. Well, thank you so much for coming on the program. We hope to have you next time.
Thank you very much.
We've been talking to Denja Abdullahi. He is the former president, Association of Nigerian Authors, and also Adeni Taiwo, editor, Teen Trust. And now let's quickly go on a break. When we come back, the show will continue. Stay with us.
I'm currently standing in front of the Ukrainian embassy here in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and sitting by its gate right behind me are vibrant young Nigerians who have approached the embassy to volunteer their services to the Ukrainian government following the call of the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to members of other nations who are willing to assist in its current defense and invasion by Russia. When asked why they had approached the Ukrainian embassy to fight for the country instead of their own, they had this to say.
We are angry. We are angry. So we want to leave this nation because some of all these men, their children are nowhere to. Their children are not in this country. They are abroad, studying, have to strike here and there. I have volunteered myself. If I want to leave this country, I want to go and fight for Ukrainians. I've enrolled into Nigerian Defense Academy for the past three times. Three consecutive times. 2013, I was there in Kaduna, Zaria. Even when my name was enlisted, they said I still have to have a link to a general or senator.
It's better for someone to even die there than to die in this country.
Yes.
My brother, is it anything special in this country? You and I know that nothing special in this country. If flash your back at least some years ago, what the bonus we met those things and those things are still on ground. Is that how it's supposed to be? Is it a country that are ready to move on? Traveling from here to Ukraine and assist them in fighting, I believe is the best thing. Is the best thing that Nigeria youth. You understand? And you be guaranteed. Even if you die there, I'm sure that your family will not suffer here in Nigeria.
Yes. We have political crisis, we have economic crisis, we have issues here and there, we have insecurity, right? And there's no sign by the government that they are going to do anything soon because all this while they've been doing blame game. So some of us think that it's better to die for a country who will value you, right, than to die for a country who will not, even while you're alive, it seems as if you're dead already.
My dream has been to be in the military. That has been my dream. My childhood dream is to be in military, and it's since. For the past since 2012, I've tried severally, applying for DXX, Navy, Army, Air Force. I've tried severally. It's not one, it's not two. It's like consistent. In fact, I would say that all the applications that I've underwent in the Nigerian Army and paramilitaries, I've applied for all, but it's not working out. We are not opportune to know people that are in office, in public office. High government, we are not opportune. That's the truth.
Their hope of a new future might, however, be dashed as they complained of lack of preparedness on the side of the Ukrainians.
For the news I heard, online, what the thing stated that if you're willing, do you understand that a provision will be made for you and all that? Me hearing is a reverse. This is an issue I'm hearing now that if you want to go, you should be the ones to make a visa for yourself and all that. Go to Poland, then they will know that they'll see the readiness in you. To me, they're not ready.
They said that we that are willing to go there, we have to raise the sum of $1,000, which is about 500,000 naira. I was like, but that wasn't what you guys are telling us is totally different from what we read online. I don't think they are ready for that. They just want us to go and hustle for the money. If I have $1,000 here in Nigeria, I know the business, I will invest it. And in a month time, I will recover.
Unemployment, lack of opportunities, and lack of a favorable environment to do business were some of the reasons they gave. They say that until the government has put in place infrastructures to ensure that the sufferings of Nigerians are alleviated, it is better to die for another nation than their own. Sagir Ibrahim reporting for Trust TV.
The idea was to give the interim government confidence that there is somebody, a military man, who is well known, who can be accepted.
You alluded to the case of your son, Umar Farouk. Are you in touch with him?
Yes, he phones us 2 times, sometimes 3 times in a month.
As always, when I'm talking about late Abiola, I still thank my God for directing me on things to do when he gave me that leadership of this country.
Many of you honest Fulanis, you allow this man
to cast aspersion on you.
You know, Zamfara is the mother of all bandits.
The biggest problem, if you permit me, is the fact that we have not been able to get the totality of our citizenry.
It's very, very difficult to have a fixed mind like that this one you will hand over to this person because you think you will do better.
I don't see myself under no circumstance ever leaving APC for another political party.
Now, here on the Mambila Plateau. And this is where the hydroelectric power dam is supposed to be constructed.
Most people in Nigeria are ignorant of the fact that employing a child as a maid is in fact against the law.
Access to the textile mill has been very difficult.
I believe, or I think that if you want to make money, it should be in a place where there are not plenty of people that can do what you do.
From the way things are happening now, I don't think the two parties will make any impact.
I've been talking about the updates concerning the campaign of Nigerian Super Eagles in Abuja.
Bola Tinubu has informed President Muhammadu Buhari of his ambition to contest for the position of president.
To be self-reliant, a blind man defies all odds to become a carpenter in Gombe State.
The country is now experiencing a fourth wave of the COVID-19 pandemic with the emergence of the Omicron variant.
Talks are ongoing between NRC management and the union.
All right, welcome back. It's still a daybreak on Trust TV, and we're moving on to the second discussion that we have today, and it has to do with women. Now, hundreds of Nigerian women protested Wednesday at the National Assembly against the rejection of several bills seeking gender equality in the country. They trooped out in large numbers and asked the lawmakers to revisit the gender bills, accusing the lawmakers of choosing to deny women the opportunity of inclusion and representation in governance by voting against the bill. Now, right here in the studio, we actually have with us a women's rights activist and lead consultant, the Access Media Limited. And she's also a publisher of Working Moms, and she's in the studio with us today in the person of Mary Ikuku. You're welcome to the studio. Welcome to Daybreak. It's nice to have you, man.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here this morning. From the look of things, you look protest ready already.
Absolutely.
Well, when you heard this news, how did it come to you?
Oh, you know, the news really, when it was something of shock, because all of us were even at the National Assembly ground that morning before the proceedings started. So we didn't see that coming. It was so depressing. We're dumbfounded. And it also says a lot about the kind of men we have in our National Assembly. It feels bad. It feels like we don't matter. That's what the decision of the Senate and the House of Representatives in voting for the various bills that we put forward towards the constitutional amendment, which we generally call the gender bill, you know. So if the way they voted clearly shows that they don't think that women matter, they just made us feel that we're irrelevant. But 2023, they will know how relevant women are in this country. And in terms of voting power, we have. And then, secondly, we also felt that March 1st, which is supposed to be the first day of the Women's History Month, when women all over the world are celebrated, are spotlighted and highlighted their achievements. But this is the day that Nigerian National Assembly decided to make a history for themselves. It will go down in history as the day, March 1st in this country, is the day that Nigerian legislators legalized gender inequality. That's just how I can sum up what happened on the 1st of March.
Okay, now the Minister of Women Affairs, Pauline Talon, actually came out to say that, you know, the vote is a show of shame. Do you share the same thoughts?
Of course. It's a big shame, really, to, you know, see. It will be really important that we know how these people voted. It's very important. We need to know how each and every one of our representatives and our senators voted, because that will help us to make an informed decision with our votes in 2023. And it is not just a show of shame. I've said it before that this is a time where these people have said to us, you don't matter. Whatever you feel are your rights as citizens of this country, as women of Nigeria, we don't care. Because otherwise, tell me, how can anybody begin to understand? Particularly, look at one of the bills that was disapproved, that they rejected blatantly. It was the bill about women citizenship rights for spouses of Nigerian women. Foreign spouses, right?
Yeah.
So imagine that a Nigerian woman is married to a foreigner. And this bill is seeking that the man, a foreigner, a man in this case, who is married to Nigerian woman, should have rights, after 6 years of that marriage, or 5 years, should have right to access Nigerian citizenship by registration. And they rejected that bill. How does it make sense? And just to say that if the reverse is the case, that when it is a woman, a Nigerian woman, when it is a Nigerian man married to a foreign woman, the woman gets automatic citizenship. How does it sound to you? So that means that even the law itself is discriminatory. The minister called it a show of shame. She's very right, 100% correct. But it's beyond even the shame of it. It's about Constitution sitting on its own head. Constitution discriminating against itself. A Constitution that says a man, a foreigner who is married to a Nigerian woman, cannot access Nigerian citizenship. But a foreign woman, a foreigner who is a woman that is married to a Nigerian man, can access automatic citizenship. And that bill is even asking, can we let the man, a foreign man who is married to a Nigerian woman, be able to access Nigerian citizenship after 6 years of that marriage? Come on.
Okay.
How else do we... I mean, there's several of these bills, all of these bills. If I begin to take them one after the other, you will understand what the minister means by it being a show of shame. Show of shame is putting it very mildly, I must say.
Okay, now even the Vice President's wife, Mrs. Oshibajo, said the defeated bill was not the end of the agitation for women inclusion in Nigerian politics. Now, a lot of people seem to think that this was actually or would have been the right time to have a constitution that is truly representative of the women folks. Some actually also think that, you know, we have actually missed an opportunity. That's the women have missed an opportunity. Do you think same? And also this protest that's actually going on, it happened yesterday, it's happening today. For how long will it go on?
For as long as they do not address our needs. For as long as this National Assembly continues to remain adamant and sensitive to the causes that we demand for, you know, we will remain there. We are occupying, you know. Yesterday, some of us went there with our mats. A few people came with their stoves. But today, people are going there more prepared than they came yesterday. We're having caterers. People are going to be cooking on that ground.
Interesting.
Just like the
We are not going anywhere. If our children, our young children, our youths could do what they did with the NSAS and sustain it, is it their mothers that will do less? So if the earlier they go back to review, recall, and pass those bills, the better for the country's cohesion.
You know, a lot of people will say this is the first time we are seeing women, you know, with so much anger and with so much power coming on. But others, you know, have actually said that women did not really mobilize enough, which is why, you know, this bad news came to be. Are you of that opinion as well?
Women mobilized more than enough. In fact, it will be a deliberate, it will be, let me put it this way. Anyone that says women did not mobilize or lobby enough is what you call a deliberate mischief. What level of lobbying and mobilization didn't women do? Nigerian women, and this is across civil society, women group, women professionals. Have you seen the first time an organization like WIMBIS, Emerge Women, Manifesto? These are people who have continued to fight for rights of women in a different kind of way, through economic empowerment, through education. But this is one time everybody came together to fight for a cause through legal framework. And that's why the lobbying started from okay, let me tell you, the bill for additional seats for women, the 111 seat, that bill was sponsored, it's been sponsored by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, first of all. Oh. The Speaker himself. And anybody say we didn't mobilize or lobby enough? To get a speaker, a sitting speaker of this ninth assembly, to even be one of the sponsors of that bill. And then the Deputy Chief Whip of the House of Representatives, Honorable Nkiru Konye-Jocha, was also the one leading alongside the Speaker. And a lot of other incredible leadership of the House. Beyond that, we had the UN women consistently working behind at the back end. We donated consultants, legal consultants to the National Assembly. Consultants who were specialized in gender issues were donated to the National Assembly to work with them to form these laws in the constitutional amendment. Then you watched on TV how we brought in even the first, the wife of the president of this country, Aisha Buhari. She went down to the chambers when the Senate, the House, the National Assembly, she went there herself. Not just the wife of the president, the Minister for Women Affairs, and other ministers. We've had civil society organization, faith-based organization, women, professional women, CEOs of banks. We had women who mobilized. In fact, the day these bills were rejected, wife of the vice president, Mrs. Dolakwa Oshibanjo, was at the National Assembly with us. She was there in solidarity. We also lobbied men in the National Assembly. But one thing that I can tell you, that anyone that says women did not mobilize enough can only be called is some deliberate mischief and a patented kind of mischief. Because it's never been in the history of this country that women have mobilized to the point that they did. And then all of the public hearings across the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria, women mobilized. In fact, in every geopolitical zone, women gender bills were the most coherent, the most organized. We were there across 6 geopolitical zones, presenting making our submissions everywhere. In a more united form, with one voice, and with great understanding and proper articulations of the needs of Nigerian women. How much more? Maybe they just want us to just kill ourselves, and then you know that we've mobilized enough. We have done what we're supposed to do, and we will continue to do. And this is not they should not think they've defeated women. No. This is just a kind of a short discomfort, a very big, it's shocking, quite all right, but I can tell you that we are not going to be deterred. We are going back to the drawing board and we're tying up our laces, shoelaces, rolling up our sleeves. We'll go back to that drawing board and we will come back with more strategies on how to progress the conversation, progress the negotiations, progress the lobbying, and we can, I mean, there's always opportunities to do more among what we've done already.
Indeed, I can see that. Now, you know, as a working, you know, woman, what role would you say women have, you know, in governance? What are the key roles women have to play in governance?
What roles do women have to play in governance? The same role that men play in governance. The only difference is that women are better alternatives in times of crisis, in times of very bad leadership, in times of economic downfall. The way women are better managers of resources, even in their homes. They run the homes like a clockwork that men even wonder, how do they do it? With their multitasking skills, you have that kind of person in leadership, in governance. The sky won't even be the limit for this country. It would just be a stepping stone for what the great possibilities that will be there for Nigeria as a nation. Women in governance. Look at a woman like my late boss, late Professor Dora Akunyili. Everybody in this country knew how she transformed NAFDAC, how she made positive enemies for herself and her families, fighting these fake drug merchants of blessed memory. A woman like Okonjo-Iweala. People are asking what women bring to the table in governance. The first woman we have, the first woman to sit and serve as the Director General of the World, what is it called? The World Trade Organization is our own sister, Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, a woman and an African, a Nigerian, and in all respect, a global citizen. And she's doing a great job there. You still ask what women bring to governance. Amina J. Mohammed is there, the number 2 in ranking, and the biggest apex global organization in Nigeria, the United Nations. It's a Nigerian woman. And for one Okonjo-Iweala and for one Amina J. Mohammed are millions and thousands of Nigerian women with great potentials, skills, character, competencies to lead this country, all right, to make this country better, to develop this country. And what women are asking in these bills that have been put to the National Assembly through the constitutional amendment is to say, give women 30% affirmative action for appointive positions, leadership positions, appointive commissioners, ministers, director generals of boards, and all of that. And also to say, where you have a president, let the vice be woman. Where you have a man as a leader, let the woman, the vice be woman. Is this something, I don't know what's difficult about this. And then you also look at, when you look at when I think, look at the women that are in positions. If you look at when we had this list of women, Omobolaji Johnson, the broadband structure you see in this country today was courtesy of that woman as Minister for Communication. The financial inclusion, the first ever debt forgiveness we had in this country was by a woman, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. And I can't talk more about our sister, Dr. Obegeli Ezekwesili, a woman I have great respect for. She has not stopped fighting for this country. She is also one amazing woman, and we're asking, open up the leadership space by including these women who are doing great stride, including all of these women in this country, including a group of people that make up more than 50% of your population. Nigeria, as it's currently constituted in our leadership, is like a human being that has 2 eyes, 2 hands, 2 legs, but you are running with 1 eye, 1 hand, 1 leg. When you exclude women, not just the women, even the youths, even the people living that are differently abled. These are the kind of conversations these bills were to address. And the 111, the select test seat for, special seat for women is just saying, we don't want to touch your existing seats, but let's bring more chairs into the parliament so that we can bring in more kind of lawmaking, a lawmaking that is having the faces of human beings in the lawmaking. And this is what women bring to the table. They look at issues with fresh pair of eyes.
All right, well, some men have actually said that, you know, rather than giving these slots to women, that they want women to fight for the seats. And this is the reason why, or one of the reasons why, you know, the bills were rejected. And, you know, we've seen even in successive governments, you know, there's been, you know, a push for, you know, gender inclusion and everything. And right now, as it is, the National Assembly is saying that there is no going back on the bills at all. What do you have to say, just as we wrap up, what do you have to say to women out there?
The National Assembly has said there's no going back on the bill. Okay. My fellow Nigerian women, if truly the National Assembly isn't going to go back to resign their decision and pass these bills, what that means to you is that they believe you are very stupid and ignorant of your rights as human beings and as citizens of this country. What that means is that you now have to take back your power. The power that you have over the years continued to give to the men. And I understand why, because they are your babies, people you gave birth to, nurtured them, made them who they are, literally. And they become senators and parliamentarians, and they thought, oh, our mothers, our sisters, our friends, they don't need to be part of the lawmaking. Then it is now for you, fellow women, to take your power back. And how can we do that? We need to turn our numbers to resources. And what kind of resource is that? Election-winning resources.
All right.
We're going to use it, and in 2023, we will vote. Every man that did not vote, that voted against this bill, we will mobilize.
All right.
And make sure you don't return to the Senate or the House of Representatives.
All right, thank you so much. Time, unfortunately, time is not on our side. Thank you so much, Mary Koko, publisher of Working Moms African Magazine, lead consultant, the Access Media Limited. It was a pleasure having you in the studio today. All right, with that, we've come to the end of Daybreak on Trust TV. It was so much fun, you know, hanging out today.
Very interesting, and I cannot wait. You know, some would say I'm being biased because I'm a woman, but I cannot wait to see how this all pans out. There's so much anger in the land. Women are angry, and I really hope, you know, the National Assembly listens.
Definitely, definitely. All right, I'm Dasha and Husseina Osman. Thank you so much. We'll see you again tomorrow.
And I'm Zainab Bala. Have a good day.